Every season is important for a Formula 1 driver, but some have an extra significance given the potential impact on their careers and status within the paddock. 5 drivers head into what could prove to be career-defining seasons in 2021, with their respective performances set to determine how they are perceived within their respective teams and by future employers. As the saying goes, the first person you have to beat is your teammate. And with so much movement in the F1 driver market heading into this season, there's an unusually large number of drivers with something to prove, whether that's establishing themselves on their arrival at a new team or seeing off the challenge of a new arrival. We've picked out the 5 key battles to delve into why they will have such significance for the winners and losers. Alpine, Esteban Ocon versus Fernando Alonso. Esteban Ocon leaps from the frying pan and into the fire this year by swapping 2020 Renault teammate Daniel Ricciardo for Fernando Alonso at the rebranded Alpine squad. The 24-year-old was once seen as a potential Mercedes driver, but after sitting out 2019 as the champion team's reserve, he struggled to restore career momentum last season on his return with Renault. He had a decent season, peaking with second place in the Sakir Grand Prix, but he was resoundingly beaten by Ricciardo. Now he's up against a driver in Alonso who has a long history of laying waste to his teammates, with only Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton emerging from stints alongside him with their reputations intact or enhanced. This means Ocon faces a tough test and needs to make another step from his relatively strong end to the season. Ocon admitted he was surprised by how long it took him to get back into the swing of things as an F1 race driver last season and struggled to find a compromise between low speed and high speed balance early in the year. But as the season progressed, he found a better way of working with his engineers, which also required him to modify his approach and attitude, helping him to close the gap to Ricciardo. As the incumbent driver, and with the momentum built last season, he needs to hit the ground running and aim at least to match Alonso to ensure his long-term Alpine future. The pressure is on, and the combination of these two might prove to be a combustible one. Ferrari, Carlos Sainz versus Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc is the established leader at Ferrari, with a long-term contract in his pocket and the team dispensing with the services of Sebastian Vettel. Carlos Sainz was recruited to be the perfect support act, fast, consistent, experienced and ready for a drive in F1's most famous team. Team principal Mattia Binotto says the pair have equal status, and they will do so in terms of equipment. But whenever he's talked about Sainz's role, it's always framed in terms of his contribution to the Constructors' Championship rather than as a future world champion. But Leclerc is seen as a driver who should win titles for Ferrari. The question is, can Sainz defy expectations and define a different role for himself at Ferrari? Like all drivers, he will be determined to assert himself, and he certainly has the ability to be a tougher teammate for Leclerc than the one Ferrari thought it was signing. He is, after all, not a driver to be underestimated. Much could depend on the car. If the Ferrari SF21 has the same rear-end instability problems as its predecessor did, it could prove to be difficult for Sainz given he struggles with such characteristics, albeit not to the same extent that Vettel does, but in an improved car he will be formidable. If Sainz can cause the very problems he was recruited to solve, that could give Ferrari a headache, but further enhance his own formidable reputation. McLaren, Lando Norris versus Daniel Ricciardo. On the one hand, Carlos Sainz's departure from McLaren gives Lando Norris the chance to establish himself as McLaren's main man. But on the other, he's pitted against one of the toughest teammates anyone can face in ex-Renault driver Daniel Ricciardo. Norris is as well prepared as he could hope to be at this stage of his career to take on Ricciardo. Though still only 21, his first 2 Formula 1 seasons were impressive and he stacked up well compared to the highly rated Sainz. But while the statistics, particularly in qualifying, were relatively even, Norris was still the junior partner in terms of his all-round performance. But he's still improving, so should be even stronger in 2021. He knows the McLaren team inside out and has the chance to steal a march on Ricciardo. If he even matches Ricciardo, it will further enhance his reputation and give him the chance to establish himself as the re-emerging McLaren team's spearhead for years to come. If he's outperformed by a significant margin, he risks being seen simply as a support driver. Both Norris and Ricciardo are drivers who are, on the surface, light-hearted and friendly, but that masks a determination that has taken them a long way in their careers so far. Both will be determined to assert themselves in the early races of the season. Mercedes, Valtteri Bottas versus George Russell. While Valtteri Bottas and George Russell aren't literally teammates this year, or at least they won't be unless Lewis Hamilton's long-awaited new deal doesn't happen, they are Mercedes stablemates. Russell's performance as Hamilton's stand-in during last year's Sakir Grand Prix weekend means he has one foot in a Silver Arrow's cockpit for 2022. But Bottas is a tenacious character. Amid so much criticism, he's heading into his 5th season with Mercedes for a very good reason. Not only is he a very effective Grand Prix driver, albeit one who isn't as good as Hamilton, but there's no crime in that, but he also knows the team inside out. As the incumbent, he knows that a strong start to the year gives him a chance of staying on for a 6th season, and if not, it will maximise his chances of a good move elsewhere in 2022. Russell's half of the battle will be waged in back-of-the-grid anonymity at Williams. He excelled last year, although the odd high-profile mistake did grab the attention. Mercedes will be watching him closely, so by getting the best out of a limited car, he can put enormous pressure on a driver who will be in what is likely to be the best car on the grid. Red Bull, Sergio Perez versus Max Verstappen. Sergio Perez's unexpected shot at the big time with Red Bull is initially only a 1-year appointment, meaning the 31-year-old's performances this year can't fail to have a huge impact on his F1 future. In 2021, he can answer the question every driver wants the chance to. Can he cut it at the front? Given his experience and long record of success in F1's ultra-competitive midfield, not to mention the fact he's already a Grand Prix winner, there's little doubt Perez will acquit himself well. But how strongly he stacks up against Max Verstappen will define how he's perceived. If he can be the magical 3/10 behind Verstappen, or better, in qualifying and consistently back him up in the races, something Alex Albon really only did in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix last season, then Perez will have done his job. But while he knows how tough a teammate Verstappen is, he will be determined to do far more than that. He's already promised that the Mexican national anthem will be heard on the F1 podium again this year, provided the car is up to it, and that if it's good enough, he will ensure Red Bull wins the title. But after 10 seasons in F1, Perez has the chance to show he can be far more than F1's king of the midfield. Who will make the most of these career-defining chances and who will fall short, only time will tell. But we want to know what you think will happen in these 5 key battles, so let us know in the comments below. Do give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you don't miss a thing from the race.